Modified, manipulated, marketed, the food on your plate today may not be what your grandparents ate, and chances are you were never told. As Nigeria battles hunger, climate change, and soaring food prices, genetically modified organisms, GMOs, are being pushed as a solution. But behind the science lies a storm. Are we feeding the nation or poisoning the people? Who is really benefiting, Nigerian farmers or foreign multinationals? Tonight, we strip away the science speak and the scare tactics. We're talking facts, fears, and the future of our food. This is not just about beans and rice. I love beans and rice, by the way. It's about trust, truth, and what they're not telling Nigerians. Welcome to J on Air. This is a conversation that was trending on X last week. A lot of people had so many things to say. Some pro, some against GMOs. But what we're going to do on the show today is break it down. When it comes to science, science affects every single person, because you have to eat food, you understand, and you need to know what you are putting into your system. Now, I'm just going to go about talking about some general facts about GMOs globally. Now, what are GMOs? GMOs are genetically modified organisms. They can be plants, animals, or microorganisms whose DNA has been altered using genetic engineering techniques for specific traits like pest resistance or drought tolerant. Now, the first GMO crop for commercial sale was the flavor sav tomato in the US in 1994. That's over 30 years ago. Now, main GMO crops worldwide: soybeans, maize, cotton, canola, and the rest. Now, these are mostly modified, herbicide tolerant, and insect resistant. Now, top GMO producing countries, of course, number one is the US, Brazil, Argentina, India, and Canada. Concerns raised about GMOs: health risks, that is long-term effects, not fully understood and not fully known. Environmental impact, biodiversity and superweeds. Also, corporate control of seeds, and of course, labeling transparency. Benefits of GMOs as claimed: higher yields, reduced pesticide use, improved food security, climate resilience, and so much more. Now, many countries have banned or restricted GMOs. Now, European countries like France, Germany, Austria restrict or ban GMO cultivation due to environmental and health concerns, although GMO products may still be imported for animal feed. Now, let's come to Nigeria. This is where it truly concerns us. Now, we have the agency that manages this. That's the National Biosafety Management Agency, NBMA. They regulate GMO use in Nigeria. It was established in 2015. Now, in December of 2019, Nigeria approved the world's first genetically modified GM cowpea for release for commercial use. Now, the worry that I personally had with that is that not a lot of Nigerians knew about that. In fact, a lot of people are just finding out in 2025 that in 2019, Nigeria approved the world's first genetically modified GMO, cowpea rather. People are asking the question, why did the government not have dialogue with the people? Why were Nigerians not carried along? These were some of the conversations that were trending on social media over last week into this week. We had some key figures like Aproko Doctor getting dragged on social media for, his defense to an extent of GMO. He released a video on YouTube, breaking this down, talking about the pros and the cons and asking people to go get knowledge, which is why I said we need to have this conversation on J on Air today. All right. I want to officially bring in my first guest joining me today on the show. His name is Dr. Patrick Ijewere, is an internal medicine physician and holistic wellness practitioner. Welcome to the show, sir. Good to have you here.
Jay, correct?
Yes, Jay.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for the privilege.
Of course, I know that this was short notice, but you made time to be here because this conversation is one that I can tell you're passionate about and a lot of people should be aware. So I'm just going to go straight in and ask you, what are your worries when it comes to GMOs, especially here in Nigeria?
What are my worries? Should I rephrase that sentence? Let's take a historical reference.
Okay.
We people have existed for eons, thousands of years. We've known how to cultivate our food from the time man realized that seeds can be replanted. And over the decades and centuries and thousands of years, we've done so successfully. Going back to ancient Egypt, going back to biblical times, going back to our African empires of Songhai, Mali, Ghana, the Benin Kingdom. We've known how to cultivate and feed our people for generations. There's minimal places in African history where you hear of us being unable to feed ourselves. Even during colonization, even during the era of African enslavement, we've known how to feed ourselves. Suddenly, we're told we should have higher yield. Jay, you don't drive from Lagos to Ibadan before?
Yes, I have.
What do you see? Green. Show me the best statistics from any satellite. In Nigeria, we farm less than 5% of our geography. We have how many people who are unemployed? So if you're really sincere about improving agricultural produce, the land is there, the people are there. Create an environment to combine those two resources and we'll achieve it in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Over the years, we've lived through scenarios. In the 1970s, it was OFN, Operation Feed the Nation, under then, General. It was, we're told by a certain number of years, we cannot feed ourselves. So therefore, we need to do certain things now. And so we began to bring in all these, quote unquote, toxic chemicals into our agricultural space. 1980s, under another general, we were told, Green Revolution must increase our production, otherwise by some year, our population will be starving. We brought in all kinds of equipment, agric, and you name it, into the space, more chemicals into the space. Now we're told about, is it green agra, or what they want to call it now, and that GMOs. And we are told that by we are growing population, cannot feed ourselves, or use these seeds, they are higher yield. And we buy this lousy economic word, yield. Let's start with that word, yield. I get a seed of corn. I plant it. From it, I get a yield, let's say 5 cobs. I take 1 cob, the next year I plant it, get another 5. Every year I keep multiplying that. Before you know it, I have, 10,000, maybe bushels of corn. Began with that 1 seed. Now you tell me, I have this GMO seed that'll give you higher yield. Okay, so I plant it this year. And maybe instead of getting 5, I get 10. I said, let me plant it the following year. And I may get only 5, if at all I get anything. He said, no, you can't replant it. They are patented seeds. Come and buy it from me again and replant it. The yield of that seed was only 10. Done. Whereas my previous seed had given me generations. Which one is giving you more yield? The one that can only go 1 generation, and the one that can go multiple generations.
Well, but many people argue that, I understand what you're saying about the super yield and how we really have to trust nature as we've been able to feed ourselves for generations to come. But many people argue that, the science does not necessarily back this up. That at the end of the day, if we don't move towards the direction of the GMOs, we're not going to have seeds that can take care of us, as a country. We are hearing that Nigeria faces the hunger risk, which is why, the NBMA is saying that we need to move towards the GMA direction. And they're saying that this science does not back up people that, go against GMO.
You've used 2 terms, science and hunger risk. I just gave you 3 stories. First one was OFN in 1970s. Hunger risk. We took care of ourselves. They gave us a deadline. We've passed that deadline. The other one was Green Revolution, hunger risk. Use the word science. Today, we throw around that word as if science just began last year or with our last generation. The pharaohs who built the pyramids of Egypt, have we duplicated that science? Our ancestors who sailed from Africa to the Americas before Columbus and traded to the Americans, have we duplicated that science? Our cousins over in Burkina Faso who had astrology that today only science is revealing, have we unraveled that science? So So to come here and say science is telling me this is an insult on our ancestors. Stop that nonsense. We're buying some arguments by somebody else and we're hogwashing falling into it. Science is nothing new. Nothing new to our ancestors. The Benin folks who crafted artwork that today sits in museums abroad. There's no science to it. We're people of science. It's in our blood, it's in our genetics from time immemorial.
All right, doctor, let me ask you, what are specific health risks? Because people argue that, I've heard your argument about, us being scientific from time immemorial and us being able to take care of ourselves. People are asking, what are the specific health risks when it comes to, GMOs? And are these backed by peer-reviewed studies, or these are just things we're saying based off just history?
Okay. Let's break it down.
Okay.
My first degree is in chemistry.
All right.
Then pharmacy for being a medical doctor.
All right.
So let's break it down. Let's look at genetics. Genetic code. I won't use the typical alphabet of A, C, T, G. Let's just do A, B, C, D for ease of understanding.
All right.
So on your genetic string, you have A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. You have readers that know how to read this genetic sequence to give you proteins that the body recognizes. Proteins for your eyes, proteins for hemoglobin, proteins for a wide range of things that we make in the body. That's how it has occurred. Neatly, the body knows this code gives me this protein is for this purpose. Now you take A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, and you insert A, B, C, D, C, A, T, A, B, C, D. The code that usually read A, B, C, D now is reading A, B, C, D, C, and makes a protein. The body says, hey, that's a foreign, that's not normal, that's not our protein, that's a foreigner. What does the body do? What it does best? The immune system says, hey, clear that protein out, attack, deal with it. You make another protein, B, C, D, or let's go C, D, C, A. That code gives another protein. The body says, that protein is not it's not part of us, so please, let's deal with it. So just from the genetic sequencing, you create chaos in the proteins that are derived from that sequence and the other molecules that derive from that sequence. That's a very basic genetic level. When you have abnormal proteins, or you trigger the immune system in that realm, my colleagues would say, hey, that's the basis of ailments that we call mutated ailments, like cancer, autoimmune disorders. That's as basic as I can get on this space. We can go beyond that. They've told another fact or misinformation that when you use GMO, you use less pesticide. Come on, Jay. You mentioned Brazil among the top countries. Yeah. In the last 15 years, Brazil has increased its pesticide use by, I think it's about 7,000 or 700%. Go online and look at the data. Every single country using GMO has increased its use of these toxins, the pesticides and herbicides. So let's stop telling that false narrative. Do your aside, do your homework, Jay. Don't say it again, because that's not true. All pesticides do what in the human body? What do? They either damage your neurological system or your immune system. One can go on and on in terms of the damaging effect of the seeds to our DNA, to our immune system. Yes. The things you must use along with the seeds to our neurologic system, immune system, and other things that can cause disease in the body. The list goes on and on.
So people argue that, you're pushing for organic, natural foods. And people say that Nigeria is a country that is really poor and that many people cannot afford it. And people are saying, is rejecting GMOs a realistic public health, policy in a country like Nigeria that, people argue is a country that has multidimensional poverty?
One of getting food and poverty. If I take you to meet some of my farmer colleagues and they share with you the amount of waste that occurs in the farms. Waste because the products cannot be shipped over to the market. Our issue is not our productivity. It's the infrastructure to either transport it, to store it, to process it. It is not productivity. Africans, including Nigerians, were highly productive people. And we've proven that over the centuries. Go and read our history. The issue is not production at all. We have the land, we have the people, and every year we waste tons. Come to my village, you see it. Pineapples, pawpaw. I have colleagues who ship us mangoes from Benue. The amount of wasted at the farm because nobody is there to uptake it. The issue is never production. The issue is the infrastructure to get the produce to the end user.
All right, I want us to quickly listen to something before you continue from the DG of the National Biosafety Management Agency, NBMA, Dr. Agnes Yemisi Asagbara. You might want to use your headset to be able to hear what she said, and I want your reaction on this. She was involved in a conversation yesterday, and this is what she said.
Nigeria actually needs GMO. Our food security. We cannot meet up our food requirements by the rural farming that we do. Even in advanced countries, GMO is being used. But I would like to say it's a matter of choice. Nobody forces anybody. There's a choice. But with our population, with what we see, we need to have GMOs. We need to have the GM seeds.
All right, so that was Dr. Agnes Yemisi Asagbara, the DG of the National Biosafety Management Agency, NBMA, in a conversation yesterday, actually. How do you react to that?
Jay, I've already answered everything she's mentioned. Food security. We are farming less than 5% of our geography. We have tons of unemployment. Bring the resources together. We can grow what we need. You mentioned organic. Leave the big word alone. Before that big word came along, how were we surviving? We were growing foods. You had kingdoms. The Benin Kingdom, for instance, when the Portuguese came 400 or 500 years ago, what they described was a highly organized society. There was no starvation and there was no theft. The people knew how to feed themselves in their sprawling kingdoms. It's nothing new. Somehow we buy into this thing that all this is new. It's not. On the issue of mass scale production, at one point, my family was involved in mass production, and we used equipment, combined harvesters, for instance. We did not use one bit of GMO. I don't want to, my father was tremendous. At one point, we were supplying some of the big companies grains. We did not use GMO. There are countries around the world today who mass produce, Russia, France, without GMO. So where's that argument coming from, that we must do GMO to mass produce? Please, let's divorce that connection.
All right, so joining us, to expand on this conversation is a plant breeder and PhD candidate, plant breeding program, University of Florida, USA, Habib Akimade. Habib, welcome to the show. Can you hear me?
Hi, everyone. My name is Habib Akimade. I'm a fourth-year PhD candidate here at the University of Florida, and I'm in the plant breeding PhD program. So I would just like to give a brief introduction of GM itself. I know that when Nigerians hear about GM or GMO, we think about control, we think about toxicity, we think about poison and so many things. But I would like to let us know that there's a difference between genetically modified organisms like GMO and genetic modification. GMO is a genetic modification, but not all genetic modification is GMO. Over time, Nigerians breeders have always planted or crossed different crops so that we can have better varieties commercially. But Nigeria still imports billions of maize, billions of wheat and processed food. And this is because our farmers lose up to 30 to 50%, sometimes even 80% of harvest to pests, to droughts and different poor varieties. Another thing that people talk about is that GMO to address concerns now, GMO is usually will let you use more pesticide, more chemicals. The key thing is our farmers already use too much. They use chemicals and they use too much of it. Most of the GM crops that are available commercially worldwide now are mostly pest-resistant crops, so that farmers can use less chemicals and they can use less herbicides. Again, GMO or for example, BT cotton or cowpea, Sampi T20 cowpea that we have now is they are GM crops, and they have helped to reduce the use of pesticide by up to 70%. And remember that when farmers reduce pesticide or use less pesticide, it means that they are spending less capital into their farming enterprise.
All right. Thank you so much, Habib Akimade, plant breeder and PhD candidate, plant breeding program, University of Florida, USA. All right. From what you've said so far, are you saying that an organization like the NMBA formed in 2015, is lying to the Nigerian people? Is this what you're saying?
All right, you've asked like 3 questions. Let's take it one by one. Why was NBMA formed? Was there a need for NBMA to be created? We have NAFDAC. That's within NAFDAC's purview as our food organization. Why was NBMA created? What is the NBMA is doing that NAFDAC could not do?
They say that they are working hand in hand with NAFDAC.
Not too long ago, the DG of NAFDAC made some comments that were not in favor of GMO. Of course, the biosafety people, countered and said it's not within her purview. It's not food. Why must you create a special department just for food? And please take time to kind of research the circumstances that led to the creation of NBMA. I want to touch on these health issues. I mentioned cancer, autoimmune disorders, allergies, asthma, gut issues are also out there. Go to the US, where there's already 30 plus years of history of GMOs, and listen to what the doctors are saying over there. There's documentation I can send to you. I think I sent you some earlier, where doctors who are into environmental medicine to doctors who are into pediatrics, talking about when they take their clients off the GMOs, health either improves or their so-called ailment disappears. Let's go one step further. How did GMOs enter the US? Again, the data is out there. GMOs almost always come in through the back door. It's a clandestine operation. In the US, there was no large debate when I think it was late 1990s when GMOs were put into the field. Scientists within the FDA, many of them recommended that GMOs should not be approved because there were a lot of health concerns as well as environmental concerns. Suddenly, some gentleman who was formerly a lawyer in the pro-GMO industries became the food czar at the FDA, sidetracked the scientists and pushed it through. There was minimal to no debate in the public sector in the US. GMOs came in clandestinely through the back door. The exact same approach has occurred here in Nigeria, as it alluded to on this program. There was no debate. Come on, we have universities, we have professors, we have people who want to know, is their stomach? Now, we haven't touched on the other end of the spectrum. Often we talk about food as if food is something alone by itself. Once upon a time, we grew and ate food that kept us in wellness. The foods of today, especially the processed foods of today, are causing us to be sick and need medication.
But are you saying that an organization like the NMBA is lying to the Nigerian people?
The leadership of NBNMA, and I think it's the other one, NBTA, when you debate them head on the facts of GMOs, all they do is parrot what they've been taught to parrot. You use the word lying. When you carry a bunch of quote-unquote people, sequester them, and you train them into a particular way of thinking and speaking, we call it brainwashing, and you convince them that this is the pathway to go, and their income depends on that line of thought, of course they'll toe that line.
You said they parrot what they've been told to parrot when you have try to have any conversations with them. So I just want you to continue that train of thought if you can.
I was privileged to debate with I think she's the previous DG of NBTA.
Okay.
Because they're actually two organizations.
Yes.
And it was so clear that her depth of knowledge was shallow. It was so clear that when you go into the science behind GMOs, she could only tell what she more or less reading off a script. Couldn't go to an analysis. Let's keep it simple. Okay? All right, you're going to make more yield, right? You have this 1 acre square land. Normally, when you plant corn, let's say it gives you 10 bushels.
Okay.
Now they bring you this magic seed. You plant it, and it gives you 40 bushels. Okay. The same land area that gave you 10 bushels now is giving you 40 bushels. Do you expect that the nutrient quantity or quality in that 1 to 40 will match the 1 to 10? The nutrient quality and quantity. I lived in the US for many years, 26 years. You buy GMO corn, you eat it. My son will eat 5 and 6, but they're never full. Come to Nigeria, eat one native corn. Daddy, I'm good. GMO foods lack nutrient density. Let's go one step further.
Okay.
You are a bricklayer, or no, you're in the business of building houses. You have a trusted supplier. He tells you, from 1 bag of cement, I make 20 solid blocks. For decades, generations, you've been buying from this, but, well, one generation. And you haven't had a building crack. Solid 20 bricks. Ijewere comes from across the water and says, Oga, that cement bag, instead of 20, can make you 50 bricks. Of course, your yield has gone up, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
You're going to make more money selling those bricks. Along comes your son. Says, Daddy, I want to build a house. Or your daughter comes along, wants to build a house. Which brick will you sell her? 1 to 20, 1 to 50. Same bag of cement. GMO foods are nutrient deplete, nutrient insufficient, and anybody who consumes food over time that is nutrient insufficient becomes deficient themselves, and that's the basis of many of our chronic medical conditions today. As a medical doctor, we do tons of tests, analysis looking at people's nutrients, and we see it. B vitamin, vitamin C, vitamin K, K1, K2, vitamin E, we see it, and we have to address it to heal the person. That's how we're able to reverse diseases, because many of our ailments today are linked to chronic nutritional deficiencies or insufficiencies. GMOs are going to create more mayhem. It's already doing so in the US. Look at the US. Look at the health statistics. Too often we talk about agriculture, forget that there's a health consequence from agriculture. It's linear. What happens to the soil affects the plants, affects the crops that are harvested and that we consume, and even the animals who eat those crops, and then we eat those animals. Look at healthcare statistics in the US of A. They've been going upwards, non-stop upwards, in spite of all the MRIs, CT scans, radiology, specialists, and hospitals, you name it. If the scorecard was disease reversal or disease continuity, US would not be doing so well. And now you're telling me I should get the advice to eat what they're eating. I should... Come on, guys.
All right. We're still talking GMOs here. Dr. Patrick Ijewere is saying a lot of things here. Hello, welcome to the show. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Talk to me. Make your question quick, please.
Yeah, Doctor, thank you very much for this, your analysis. I love it. May God continue to bless you. But my own question here is, this GMO of a thing, I heard, I didn't know if it's a conspiracy or something like that. I heard that wherever you plant it this year, you can't plant any other inorganic seed. on that same land? Is it true or false?
All right, the doctor has heard your question. He's going to answer that now.
There are several factors involved here, and our plant breeder can actually give us a bit more detail. Yes, and our farmers have had that experience here, where number one, you plant the seed, whatever crop it gives you, the seed of that either drops its yield or there's no yield. Number two, there's an alteration in the soil that makes it difficult to plant other crops subsequent seasons. Number three, the other agric inputs that you must use when you use GMO, pesticides or herbicides, which you must use, and talk to Brazil. They are using massive increase in their use of these inputs. Those things damage the soil. Gentlemen, ladies, what makes your soil fertile isn't just the soil, it's the microbes in the soil. And there's billions of them. Bacteria, fungi, earthworms, you name them, they're in the soil. They break down the soil into microparticles to allow the root system to easily absorb it. And they do even more than that. Once you apply pesticide, herbicide to that soil, you kill these facilitators of soil fertility. The soil drops in its fertility subsequent generations. To the point where after you've planted that BT cowpea or BT corn, don't try and plant things in there, maybe for that 7 to 10 years to allow some regeneration to occur.
All right, so we're going to try to reach out to Habib now. Habib, can you hear me now?
Hello. Very well.
All right, so how do you respond to all that he has said so far?
Okay, I think I need to respond by first trying to answer questions.
Okay.
Now, the first concern was that you cannot plant big seeds or you cannot plant in the same place. Let's get things correct. When seed companies produce seed, they give hybrid seeds. Now, I'm not even talking about GMO now. I'm talking about how genetics work for seeds. So they give hybrid seeds, and when farmers plant hybrid seeds, the performance is uniform, it's amazing, you can tell what you get from it, and you can plant proper. But when you replant the hybrid seeds, not even GMO now, you cannot replant your hybrid seeds because the following year, there will be differences in performance. And once there is differences in performance, the farmers will face severe crop loss because some will have super low yield, some will be in the middle, and some will have high yield. So that is not even good economically. So that is very general for all the seeds from seed companies. So let's not mix things up by saying that you cannot replant seeds or replant GMO. You cannot also replant hybrid seeds or any seed that you get from seed companies. Now, they talk about GM or the reasons they sign things so that they cannot replant. And that is because of the whole concerns that people have for monitoring, to know where these seeds go. When you plant GM seeds, it is important for the government, for the seed companies, and every other player involved to know where these seeds are going. And because you cannot fully monitor that, and because this particular GM is still in its embryo, many people have not accepted it yet. That is why, for now, people are being dissuaded from replanting, and you have to get the seeds back for proper monitoring. Also, I would like to talk about my able doctor here talked about Africa or Nigeria. We have so much land. We should try to use our land. The olden days, the Pharaoh days, the technology, or what we had then. We should look at how I'm currently here in America and you are in Nigeria and we are talking. We are using phone, we are streaming and things like that. We cannot be stuck on the technology or the lack of it that we had in the days of the Pharaoh. We have technology to make things easier for us. And that is, we cannot say farmers should stick to the old ways. First, the population has increased. Science is not an insult to our ancestors. So we have to use new technology to breed. Again, traditionally when we breed or when we try to have improved varieties, we make crosses, which everybody knows. But when you make crosses and try to put a trait into a new variety, it takes years. it can take up to 12, 13 years before that particular variety goes commercial. But we have different technologies now. We have molecular technology, which my able doctor knows very well. With molecular technology, you have increased precision. We use molecular markers to breed and not have to wait for those years. GM itself is part of molecular technology. The only difference, or the only thing that, or the only reason why people are scoffing now is because GM is transgenics, meaning that you are bringing a gene from another species into it. But we are using molecular breeding whether we like it or not.
A lot of the things that the doctor has said, you have, in a respectful way, disputed. You know, he said, my able doctor. So, Dr. Patrick, how do you react to some of the things that he has said? He's saying that, you know, for the cowpea, for example, you said these crops would need more pesticides. He's saying that is not true. That if you ask the farmers in the north, they will tell you that this is not true.
GMOs is not new. It's been around for about 30 years. Go to the countries that have spent the last 10, 15, 20 years with GMOs. The data is so clear on the increased use of pesticide. The USA, Brazil, go online. The information is there. I didn't have to go too far. I saw it right there online. So that whole talk about US pesticide, Bobson, if you like to believe it, you can believe it or go and do your own research. The other issue of mass production. I give an example that even my family was into mass production. We had combined harvesters harvesting rice and corn in Edo State. There was no GMO. So you can mass produce without GMO. He talked about labeling. Beautiful. Let's do full-length labeling from the farm to the table. If you have to alter the seed, it's a GMO seed, label is a GMO seed. Let's know what genes are altered in it. If you use pesticide, glyphosate, 2,4, label it. If in the processing, you add certain chemicals to it, or use carbide in the process, label it. Give us full information so that we have full choice. And we can choose if we want to eat this or eat this one.
All right, I think that's a great way to wrap up the conversation. I'm going to ask you, Habib, to share your last thoughts here. Obviously, you and Dr. Patrick here will not agree, and I think that is the point of this conversation. And I like that he has said, at the end of the day, we should be given that choice. And I think that that's the major issue that I personally have. To be honest, I have two major issues. Nigeria being the first country in 2019 to accept the cowpea, BT cowpea. We know that Nigeria has been a dumping ground. So Nigeria being the first country in the world, that's suspicious to me. In the entire world, something good, did they just bring something good and give it to us here as Nigerians? That's suspicious to me. Another thing that is suspicious to me is that even when that was accepted in 2019, the government did not, it was a quiet thing. Even the time it happened, people were not awake. People didn't know so much. There was not education about this. That's the second worry. And I think my final worry here is that the labeling, Nigeria is one of the countries that has weak labeling. If you follow the law and the policies, it actually wants us to label. It actually insists about the labeling. But when it comes to execution, it's not there. So how do you react to this, and how do you wrap this up in just about a minute?
Okay, let me quickly react to that. Be first in Nigeria is because, coincidentally, my PhD is about cowpeas. Cowpea is called farmer Smith. And it's because it is mostly produced in low-income countries, example Nigeria. So cowpea is able to provide income, it's able to provide the kind of protein source that we need, that low-income people need, and it helps the soil, it helps, it's also used to feed animals, so it has multi-purpose use. That is why cowpea is a chief crop in Nigeria. And in fact, the word germplasm is where you keep all the diversity of cowpea. The biggest one is in Nigeria and is in Ibadan at IIT. So cowpea is a Nigeria thing. It's mostly Nigeria. That is why that has happened. So it's not because they want to, Nigeria is a dumping ground. No, it's because cowpea is Nigeria's chief crop. Now let's talk about labeling and distrust. Now you see, when you talk about labeling and distrust, that is not a GM problem. That is a general problem. We can talk about labeling for other foods, for drugs, for clothes. So the distrust is not a GM thing. It's a general thing for all, for Nigeria itself. So now to wrap this up, like I said, we need proper regulation to help that distrust. Two, we need policies that can work with the government, the farmers, as well as the seed companies or all the stakeholders that are in that food chain to work hand in hand so that we can have both the GM and the non-GM seeds at an incentivized way. Because don't forget that I said that you cannot plant hybrid seeds again, whether GM or not. If you plant any hybrid seed with poor yield, go and ask around. So the labeling should be clear. The process is to screen. You make the food, you extract the food. If it is negative, you don't need GM labeling. It is positive, they do another test to check again for approved, to check if the GMO is approved, and then they go for GM labeling. So if we make all those protocols clear, people can make their choice themselves. So we know that yes, this is GM and this is not GM. You can then decide to go for what you want. But let's not try to ward off the use of technology, because we are already using it. This conversation is made possible because we have technology. So science is not our enemy. Confusion is.
All
and
right.
not science.
All right. Thank you so much. Habib Akimade, plant breeder and PhD candidate, plant breeding program, University of Florida, USA. Also, massive thanks to Dr. Patrick Ijewere, internal medicine physician and holistic wellness practitioner. Thank you both for joining us on G on Air today. As we wrap this up, we go straight to Jay's take. At the end of the day, for me, it is a matter of choice. It's a matter of choice. The government has to make the people aware. The people have to know that this is what it is. Labeling is important, because if we're being honest, I don't think that this is something that we can fight. Technology is going to take over. Technology is a thing, but people need to be aware what they put into their systems. It becomes very suspicious when conversations like this are not had and people do not get the choice, to decide what they want to take into their system. Another thing I want to say is that as Nigerians, we don't have conversations like this enough, and we don't educate ourselves enough, and we don't research enough. And if we continue down this path, it is going to be very disastrous for us. Not just about GMOs, about everything. You need to educate yourself. You need to inform yourself. We all have our smartphones. What are you using your smartphone for? What are you Googling? What are you using your ChatGPT for? Are you just on Instagram like pictures and making bad comments? You need to be aware.